once we make this turn from fancy to insanity, like it has to happen quick.
Yeah.
Like we don't want this to be like this slow burn. So there was a lot of choreographing, just like the timing where the speech was happening and the weapons were coming out. And
what's up, guys? Today on the podcast, going to be talking with Rob Lewis of Good Conduct Creative about the Voodoo Ranger hard tea commercial.
So the whole brand is traditionally animated. Like it lives in an animated space, which is why you saw, like during that push into the tea house, we cut to Voodoo Ranger kind of inviting you into the tea house, but in an animated format. Mm-hmm. So we established certain rules about the brand, and like we're never gonna dress up somebody in like a skeleton costume. Like he doesn't exist in the real world. He exists in a completely animated world. Totally. So we wanted to be able to do something in real life. We're like, okay, well, how do we incorporate a little bit of the brand from animation into like a real world activation? And so that's why you see that sort of like match cut as we're pushing into the space of an illustrated version of the space, and Voodoo Ranger puts you in, and like all that kind of stuff.
That's sick. Breaking down kind of the beginning of this, did you guys go shoot all this like external footage too, or is this like stock footage of?
It's a little bit of both. So this aerial shot is stock. Mm-hmm. But then at the exteriors, like this one and just some, like all this we just shot. There's like the Shea Voodoo logo on the outside of the space.
I know, that's so funny. So you guys had to make all the decals and everything, and that's a lot. That's a really extensive build, like the whole world.
Yeah, we had to name it. So there was a couple of different ideas for names. Like that one is pretty cool. That is literally just the House of Voodoo in French. Mm-hmm. Chez Voodoo. But it sounds fancy, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So and then just trying to play into that aesthetic. So like on this shot, you see like the wallpaper. So even down to like the wallpaper, the tea is like a lemon tea. So we're just like, we have these little cues throughout the space of like lemons. And then we just wanted it to feel like a fancy tea house that you would see at like the Ritz or like in Britain. We want like plates on the walls, and we just want stacks of fancy fine china, and like the frames are gaudy and ornate, and it's upscale. It's upscale, but it's also a little bit of a cliche. Like we want it to feel like a little bit of a cliche tea. Because we wanted people to think they were getting that traditional tea experience. Yeah. So all these guys here, so they're all immersive actors. So they're like, in Broadway shows and like that kind of thing. And so they're not like, it's not like casting a traditional TV commercial. Yeah. We actually got these people that like assumed this role of this character, and so these guys are all like what's called immersive actors. Sure. The guy in the middle, the funny story about him, he actually is French. He grew up in France. He's lived here for a while, and we were talking to some of the patrons after the whole destruction. We're like, okay, well, when did you know that something was sort of awry? Something was amiss. What was going on? And they're like, oh, well, that the French guy's accent was so fake.
He's like totally French.
We're like, well, that guy's French, so okay.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so people walked in, and we had like, they were served little like cookies, and we started just serving them like you would, and then things started to build and get like a little bit more absurd. Like we had the waiters, like they would deliver the tea set, but then they would like deliver more. They're like more than they would need. They're like, why are you bringing us so much stuff? And in some cases, like we're just like, go ahead and like have a little fun with it. So they started like stacking cups on top of plates, like a
Nice.
little Alice in Wonderlandy. Like started to get a little weird. Like, why is he stacking my plates on top of, or my cups on top of my plates, or vice versa? And then people would fix them and he'd come back and like rearrange them to be weird again. They had a little gag. It didn't make it into the final edit, but they had a little gag where one of the waiters dropped something, and we had the host, which was like this woman that didn't make it into the final edit, but like she pulled him aside and sort of like read him the riot act a little.
Yeah.
And then she made we had one fake fondant teacup, and she forced him to take a bite out of it.
Oh, no way.
So people were sort of like looking over their shoulders, like,
Yeah,
what?
like, what the heck?
Like, what is going on? There's a couple little like Easter eggs
Yeah.
we gave to people, so they started to get like a little suspicious.
Yeah.
Like, so this is where people are starting to sort of like, why are they delivering me hammers and crowbars and like all that kind of stuff.
And this is the pre-light day?
This was on the pre-light day, so yeah, it just like we weren't gonna be able to get like those super set up high speed shots like while we were trying to do everything else. So shot that on the pre-light day. We shot a couple of things on the pre-light day, just like a couple of like the art card things and a couple of those punch-ins.
Oh, there's that shot you were talking about.
Yes, so that guy that guy hit that at everybody else.
That's so funny. Everybody's like, what?
Yeah, there was a deleted scene here too where he just like goes absolutely ape on the table.
Okay.
The client felt like it felt a little too much like actual rage versus fun, so
yeah,
didn't make the final edit.
Hey,
and
these
then,
people are going nuts, dude.
Yeah, so you can see this guy here. So before he had his little hard hat on, he had a little like punk rocky sort of pompadour thing happening. Yeah. And he was the guy that we were looking at. We're like, this guy is gonna love this so much. And then you can see his I think it's his girlfriend, maybe it's his wife. She's like holding her
in the background
ears. But like, she's smiling, she's having a good time. So a lot of that happened in like when they started flipping over the tables. That was the last seating.
Okay.
And this guy, the guy playing the guitar, he was great. So the track that exists in the edit, he just wrote that for the edit.
Yeah.
So I think he like plays in a band in LA, and he had some connections to the production crew. But so it all was kind of choreographed where the maitre d' was giving a little speech, welcome to my tea house, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for coming. And then she said something like, but my tea, I forget the exact words, is a little bit different. She smashed a cup on the ground. This dude just plays this massive riff on his electric guitar that drowns out all of the elevator music.
Yeah.
And then the hostess, the maitre d', pulls this little lurch cord, and that banner dropped down. And that's when the smashing really began. Yeah.
Is that when you started passing out hard hats, or?
Yeah, so the hard hats, what was the cadence of that? The hard hats was like a legal necessity.
Yeah.
So that was I think they were passed out either simultaneously or just before the weapons.
Okay.
And that was a little bit of like, people are just like, what are you giving me this?
Like a preemptive, like.
And we're just like, no, please put those on.
Yeah, you don't know what's gonna happen.
But it was really like 1-2. It needed to be like, that's what we were really working out on the pre-light day, because we had a couple of walkthroughs. We're like, no, it can't be like, once we make this turn from fancy to insanity, like it has to happen quick.
Yeah.
Like we don't want this to be like this slow burn. So there was a lot of choreographing, just like the timing where the speech was happening and the weapons were coming out. And then like, I think we built in a cue where on some word that the maitre d' said, that's when the guitar player plays his lick, and he jumped up on the table that had people sitting at it.
Oh,
Jumped up
nice.
on the table and started like, shredding his electric guitar.
That's so sick.
So yeah, a lot happened that you almost like we didn't even really be able to tell the entire experience in the minute long video,
Totally. It was a lot to cram in.
Like we had a bunch of little Easter eggs. I think we even had like instead of black tea, we had like black flag tea.
Nice.
Like, we threw in little like gags like that into everything.
And so all the interviews afterwards are just off the cuff, like asking them how they experienced it and if they had a good time.
Yeah.
This dude cracks me up. Like, I thought about my boss.
Yeah, the fact that he said that, and we're like, we're putting this on the air.
Yeah. I was like, do you still have a job tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's so funny, dude.
Yeah, and those were the older ladies. So those older ladies, one of them was local, and then the lady on the left was Scottish, and I think she might live in Soho, but the two friends were in town. So these were the ones I was telling you about. They're like, oh, they're in town. We haven't seen each other in 15 years, and this is what we decided to do with our day.
No way.
But they had a good time. They weren't grouchy about it or anything. We're like, so what are you gonna do now? And they're like, I think we're gonna go get some nice tea.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
This gal here on the left, you can see that there's a little spot of blood there on her blouse.
Oh
This
yeah.
yeah.
Right above her hand.
Just above her hand, yeah.
Okay. Carnage. That's
yeah, there's
funny.
some carnage. I have a pretty cool just like iPhone photo of like there's this one woman that sort of had these long white socks on and little like ballerina slippers, and it looked kind of like, cute, like something you would wear to a tee.
Yeah.
But then by the time, because everybody in the basement came up at the end and chatted everyone up and did these interviews and stuff. And so anyway, I'm talking to this girl with the nice white frilly socks and the little ballerina shoes, and I look down and there's a Band-Aid with like a stream of blood coming down from underneath it.
Oh my
Toward
gosh.
her like little ruffled white sock, and I was like, that's so awesome. Just like so badass.
That's so funny. Oh my god, it's crazy. Woo. Hard tea. Did everybody take some hard tea to go?
Yeah, everybody got some hard tea to go, which
That's
is
sick.
it's like 7% ABV, so it was
Okay.
like some people were getting a little loose after the
After the
actual-
carnage?
Yeah, we let people hang out, especially after the last one. We let people hang out for a while.
Nice.
After the first two, we let people hang out for a while and then kind of ushered them out so we could reset the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, people wanted to hang out. They wanted to stay and talk about it and drink hard
Yeah.
tea.
That's sick, man. Did you design these cans as well?
No, we didn't design the cans. They have a pretty cool illustrator. His name's Josh Holland, and he does most of the can designs
Okay.
for the Voodoo Ranger.
Okay. That's crazy. Yeah, I wasn't sure because, you're the crazy wicked designer and I've got all my stickers and stuff that, you're always making the sickest stuff.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I don't know, maybe you design the cans because you do all that. So
I wish. I appreciate the shout out. I think the Voodoo Ranger character is a little beyond my skill set. But yeah, we did have the and then we had that animated piece too that was really fun.
that was sick, man. I loved that one.
But our agency, Good Conduct, created that whole campaign. So there was print, and there was this activation, and there was the animated TV spot.
Yeah,
And a couple other things like little social videos and
totally.
paid social. So we developed that campaign that was all about like tea with more bite, and a tea that parties. And we developed that whole campaign for the launch of that that new
Yeah.
product. Voodoo Ranger traditionally is like an IPA, like they make beer. And their beer is known to be pretty strong. Like it has like high alcohol content, and it has like a pretty rabid like social following too.
Yeah.
And back in the day, a few years back, I was the creative director that really brought the Voodoo Ranger character to life.
Okay.
When we started working on it, it was like, yes, they had it on the can, they had the character already, but they didn't really know how to use it, and so we like kind of built the voice. Although he never talks, that's one of his rules. But we built the voice and like built the social following, and like it was all built on social media, like back before Meta made you pay for everything.
Yeah.
And so it gained like a ton of followers. So anyway, when they launched this tea thing, we're just like, oh, this is cool, like, because it's tea, and you know, there's Twisted Tea, right? And they made it specifically to like compete with Twisted Tea, which, you know, Twisted Tea is called Twisted Tea, but if you ever look at any of their content or their commercials or anything, it's not very twisted. You know, it's like pretty. It's kind of like bros hanging out on the beach wearing Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, well, we can be like way more ballsy and aggressive and like all that stuff. So like the whole thing was like, here's a tea, but we want it to be like super high energy and super aggressive. Like it's almost like the Monster Energy of alcoholic tea. Yeah. And we're just like, well, that's pretty cool because, you know, that's the total opposite of what you think of when you think of tea. Yeah. Like you think of tea and you think of like old British ladies and like, you know, snobbiness and like stuck up little traditions or like little girls and tea parties, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're like, it's already like a surprising combination. Yeah. So that's kind of how we landed on this idea of it's not a tea party, it's a tea that parties.
Yeah, I love it.
So, and like our tea party is like really, really hard. And so, you know, that activation that we did in New York, it was like, okay, so let's give people in the real world the same realization about the product that we're having. Like, totally. Let's throw a tea party and then make it like the most insane tea party you've ever experienced. Yeah. And so then, we're just like, okay, well, we'll launch an actual tea house, and then instead of actually serving people tea, we'll serve them like implements of destruction and see what they do, and invite them to just destroy the whole thing. And it was all, there was like nobody knew what was going to happen. Like all the people in that video, like they thought they were there for a nice afternoon of tea. Like they signed up to come to tea. Yeah. And some of them were like these older ladies that had friends in from out of town, and they're like, we thought this would be a really nice thing to do, is go for afternoon tea. And then this happened, and you deliver them crowbars and monkey wrenches and baseball bats, and like they're just like, oh my god, what is this? But then they ended up having a great time, and they smashed their tea, and they smashed everything. And
that's so funny. So did they need any sort of like coaxing into, maybe you want to smash something, or you just like set down the crowbar and they look at it and go, I guess I'll just break some stuff?
Yeah, it was funny because we were talking about that a lot. We were sitting in the basement, so the agency and the production crew were like in the basement watching on the monitor. And like I was so nervous. Like I was so nervous. I was like, what is gonna happen? Are these people gonna get up and walk out? Are they gonna actually smash the stuff? So we did have a couple of things like built in to sort of like help them along. We had the proprietor of the tea shop, who was a immersive actor. We had her sort of like give a little bit of a monologue, like, welcome to my tea shop, like, and she did like a little ding ding ding, she like gave a little speech. She's like, welcome to my tea shop, and you know, there was a little bit of like whimsical setup where we're like, oh, this is going to be really, really nice. And then she sort of transitions into like, this is tea like you've never had before. And then we had her like smash a teacup on the ground. We had a guy with an electric guitar jump up on a table. So the music transitioned from like beautiful, you know, orchestral elevator music to like heavy metal.
That's so funny.
All of the waiters were also immersive actors, and so they were kind of like encouraging the people. Like,
sort of egging it on.
They were egging it on, and like
that's so funny.
In some cases, like we had some stuff on the shelves as well, and in some cases the waiters like smashed a couple things.
Dude,
different people were more into it than others. Like I think it exists in the cut, but there was this guy. He's literally like throws up a teacup and hits it like a baseball.
Nice.
Toward everybody else that was in the.
Oh my gosh.
In the place, and we were in the basement, just like, oh my god, that's crazy. So there was people that were like super into it, super aggressive, and people that were more just like, I'm gonna hit it with this little hand.
Yeah, see what happens. Was it all like hidden camera style?
So we had some hidden cameras, but it wasn't all hidden cameras. So what we did was we put out like a I wouldn't call it a casting call, but it was kind of a casting call for extras that wanted to be present about a series that was about afternoon tea.
Okay.
So it was like they knew they were going to be in the background of like, oh, it's like a History Channel show about like tea houses or something. And they were going to be like extras. And they're just going to be in the background enjoying tea. So like, oh, you just get to come for tea, and there's going to be cameras. And so that's how we justified having cameras in the space.
Okay.
Was that they knew that there was almost like a filming happening, like you're going to be on Food Network's thing about tea, sort of. So it was a lie. Like, but
that's so
we
good.
Did that, and by doing it that way, we also were able to get people to sign, you know, the waivers that were necessary, because they're like smashing porcelain. Like nothing was fake in there. Like legit porcelain tea sets. So when they were breaking, like people were bleeding. Like
oh my gosh.
Not bad. Like a couple people caught a little bit of like shrapnel in the leg, and
that's so funny.
They were having so much fun. They were just like, we had a medic on set, and you know, as you do from a lot of shoots.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Just there for contingency, but like one lady caught a little shrapnel, and she was bleeding, and so we sent the medic out, and she was like, please don't make me leave. Like she was having so much fun.
Oh my
gosh.
Didn't
care.
That's so funny.
So yeah, and then some people in retrospect, like afterwards, we interviewed people after it all went down. We did it several times. We did the whole activation several times. And after the fact, a couple of people were like, so that's why I had to sign that big waiver.
You're like, yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. That's crazy, man. How long did it take to like do the resets?
So we did it 3 times, and we reset it I think maybe in like an hour and a half or 2 hours. So the way we did it was like we built a set entirely from scratch. Like it was just an empty storefront. So we turned the entire storefront into like a tea house, which was pretty cool because it was in a really visible part of Soho, which is like a fancy shopping district where you would like in New York, where you would expect to see like a nice upscale tea house.
Yeah.
And so as we were building the thing out, we even would run into like neighborhood people that lived in the area, and they'd be like, oh, welcome to the neighborhood, we're so excited to have this like nice tea house, because we had on the outside we built out nice signage. It was called Chez Voodoo. So it was like a nod to voodoo but in French, so it seemed legit. And so, yeah, we felt a little bad because some of the real neighborhood people were just like, "Oh, this is gonna be so nice to have this beautiful tea house here."
Yeah.
But yeah, we built the whole thing from scratch. The space was kind of conducive to it. It had a couple like built-ins that we could use for shelves, but then we brought in like all the art direction, all the set, everything, and built it into like a presentable, like believable tea cafe or tea room, or whatever tea people call it. And so in the first couple of, like I said, we did the destruction reveal 3 times throughout the day. So we had 3 different seatings.
Yeah.
So like this was the grand opening of the tea house, and there was 3 seatings that day. And so the first 2 seatings, we encouraged the people to just destroy the stuff that was on their table. And then in the last seating of the day, we're just like, just wreck the whole place. So that's where the waiters came in. They're just like, no, they're taking stuff off the shelves and like putting more things on the table. And so you can see it in the video. People started to like flip over tables.
Yeah.
And it got really, really intense on that last one. And even some of, like the actors afterwards were like, that was the most insane thing I've ever been a part of, because it got really wild. It's like mob mentality.
Sure.
You just give like a bunch of people, even if they thought they were there for a fancy cup of tea, give them like full reign to destroy the place,
and they just go nuts.
Yeah, it's like Lord of the Flies all of a sudden.
Yeah, they just like feed off each other and then they start getting wild. That's so funny. Were you guys just watching going like, is this going to get way too out of control at the end?
There was a couple moments that scared me for sure. Like I said, the guy hitting the teacup with the baseball bat toward the other people. I was like, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, I probably wouldn't have done that had I been up there.
Sure. What was the brand response? Like, they're watching this with you real time?
Yeah. So we had one of the brand managers there. We also had, I think, maybe one or more of the distributors in the New York area just stop by to check it out. They loved it. They were all about it. It was really nerve-wracking, but it was primarily nerve-wracking, like wondering how the people were going to react. Like, because they were real people. I was expecting actually to get a couple people to be like, come on, honey, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
We're not.
This is weird. Yeah.
We were kind of prepared for it. We're like, well, that's great. Like, let's put that in the script. Like, that would work for the edit too. Like, oh, a couple people decline and then some people don't and they get into it. But we had nobody decline. Like I think there's a clip of one woman and her boyfriend is just like going nuts and she's like holding her hands over her ear. So some people were definitely more destructive than others, but
I love it.
And it was funny too, like watching the people get sat, because you could kind of tell who wanted to go to a nice tea and who was sort of like a guest that was dragged along in some instances.
Totally.
Like there was a woman and she was very like put together and clean cut, and then her boyfriend, you could tell, was almost like a punk rocker. Like you could tell like she had dressed him up, but like he didn't want to be there. And so we were watching it in the basement. We're like, this guy's gonna love what's about to happen, because he's clearly like not this type of human.
Yeah, that's so sick.
But yeah, it was super nerve-wracking in the setup, and I think everybody, maybe me in particular, because being the creative director for it, I was like, this has to work.
Yeah.
But I think there's some nerves from the client too, like what's going to happen, or people going to get upset.
Well, yeah.
Are people going to like it? Are they going to do it?
Exactly. I mean, you spend so much time like trying to create this event, and then it's like, does it pay off, or is it just going to like tank? How long did it take? What was the whole, I guess, from inception to actually the event itself? Was it a pretty lengthy process?
It was it probably could have taken longer. We were trying to launch it in correlation with like the launch of the product, or
Totally.
at least in some places, like the way alcohol works is it kind of, it's whenever the distributors get it out.
Sure.
I don't know exactly, but it was available in some places, but it was really like there was a big brand launch. So we were trying to correlate it with the brand launch. So it happened a little faster than probably like it could have taken, I think. But I think we had like maybe like 3 weeks of pre-pro. Nice. But the production team actually built out the space from the time they got into the empty space to the time that the set was actually ready to go was really only like a week.
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
They hustled for sure. Like there was some planning that went into it in the weeks before, in like the couple weeks before, but with a stunt like that, you have to rent the space, so you're paying for like the rental, and you can't get in till certain time, obviously depending on what you've rented it for. And so there was a fair amount of prep, but the actual build out happened pretty quick, and it was wild to see the transformation.
Yeah, I bet. Is there a special permitting type procedure you have to do, knowing you're gonna get wild inside there and destroy things, or is it just kind of like we do whatever we want with the space, no big deal?
It was something we had to. It wasn't a permit that we had to pull, and the producer could talk more intelligently about this than I can, but we had to make it really clear with the owner of the establishment or the property owner, because like the last thing you want to do is them show up and be like, what are you doing to this
what
place?
The F?
Yeah, I think we got really lucky because so we were looking at a bunch of different places in New York as possibilities, and that one had a couple of things that we really liked. It had these really giant windows that so you could even see from the outside like the beautiful decor and everything, and it was right on Broadway in Soho, and so it had some visibility from passersby too, so that's cool. We kind of wanted that. We're like, we want people to get excited about a new team house. And also that one, in particular, they were like, do whatever you want. We're planning on a remodel of this place anyway.
Nice.
So there was less concern about, scratching the floor or breaking a shelf. Or like whatever it was, because they were planning on remodeling it anyway. Because that was something like some of the other places we looked at, it was like, the ceilings are a little low. Like one had a low ceiling and it had almost like nice fancy light fixtures, and we're like, those might get broke. Like, with the length of a swing and a bat. Like
totally.
So there was definitely some like extra insurance that went into it, but that space kind of was like, do whatever you want.
That's so sick. That's like a dream.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like it might have been some kind of Nike pop-up, not either right before or right after us. It's a pretty like walkable location, so pretty deal.
That's so crazy. How many cameras did you have, and did you have any Phantoms or Embers or any slow-mo cams?
Yeah, so we had we didn't have, gosh, I forget. It wasn't a Phantom cam. We did have a high-speed camera, but we shot all the high-speed stuff before the actual activation.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So because as you got to pump in a ton of light for high-speed film, and like they're not necessarily conducive to just like running and gunning. Yeah. And so some of like the really, really close-ups that we got of like a teapot, like
exploding, smashing,
800 frames a second or whatever it was. We shot that like on the pre-light day.
Okay, cool.
And then I think we had 2 roaming cameras on easy rigs.
Yeah.
So we had 2 camera guys within the space, and then we had mounted like GoPros as well.
Nice.
So we had that like kind of like CCTV look as well, to capture just like we had one locked off on the door, so we could have, you know, cuts of people walking in and getting greeted and seated and all that thing, and then we had one pointed the other way to capture the chaos when it all happened. And then 2 camera guys with easy rigs, and I forget what they were as far as cameras, but they were just more like 24 frames a second.
That's sick.
Cameras.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That is so cool.
But it was definitely like it was run and gun. They were like, and that's those were some of the people that after the last one were just like, it got real chaotic in there.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to stay out of the way of like
totally
getting shrapnel in the face or in the camera or whatever, but they're also trying to get shot.
That's so wild.
It was cool that we did it a few times because like after the first time we did it, we'd talk to the crew and be like, okay, that was cool, but I didn't get any like of the people's reaction when we made the turn from this is a nice tea house to this is a smash room. Yeah. Like, so I really needed to get those people's like jaws dropping and like looking around like, is this for real? Like what is happening here? So, you know, we kind of like tested and learned as we went through the day.
Going from someone who's, you know, designing something specifically as part of a project or, you know, creative directing as one piece of a puzzle to having your own huge agency where you're doing everything and, you know, every aspect of all of it. Like, that's a lot. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's what I always really liked doing, honestly. Like, I came up as like out of art school as a designer. Yeah. And so like I was a designer and could illustrate a little bit, and I sort of fell into advertising. I didn't really know what it was as much. But once I sort of figured out advertising, I fell in love with it because like, as you know, as like a filmmaker, for me in advertising, all I have to do is come up with the idea. Like, if I have a really cool idea, but I have no idea how I'm going to make it, for example, how am I going to make a tea room that I'm going to destroy? I have no clue. But I can reach out to, you know, producers and set designers and like filmmakers like yourself, and like I can get all these collaborators to help me bring my vision to life.
Totally.
So, you know, when I kind of figured that out about advertising, I was like, this is really, really cool because I'm not limited by my own skill set. You know, I'm not like, well, I'll never make a film because I'm not really a filmmaker. Yeah. I'm just like, well, I got ideas. And even getting into advertising, you know, I was an art director, and traditionally, like, there's an art director copywriter dynamic, and, you know, not always, but a lot of the time, the copywriter is more like they're coming up with the ideas, and the art director, you figure out how it's going to look and make it look pretty, and like, what's the additive visual design that helps tell the story. And I never wanted to play that game. I wanted to do all the things. Yeah. I was like, I want to write the script. I want to come up with the idea. Like, I want to write the script. I want to think of like the jokes and all of those things. Exactly. So throughout like my whole career, I never really like stayed in my lane. I was like, I'm not going to stay in my lane because it's all fun. And it all is just like about the best idea. And so that's really what I think is awesome about advertising, and ultimately starting my own agency, because I was just like, well, I can do a lot of this myself. Yeah. Like, yeah, I can design it because that's my background, but I'm going to write it too, because I've been doing that now for a while. And like, so that was really like the impetus of starting the agency, is like, I can do a lot of these things. And then, having worked in the industry for a while, like I know people like you who I can reach out if I want to shoot like a something exploding in slow motion.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I feel like I've hit my quota on that now. Like blowing up tea rooms, and you and I shot, holly powder into people's faces, and
Uh-huh.
um, I feel like I've hit my quota on exploding things.
There's never enough. Blow it all up.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
sick,
but
man.
yeah, long answer to your question, but I really like every part of the process. So to
Yeah,
like own a whole campaign, to come up with the idea of the campaign and then how it executes, and then down to like crafting, the signage that goes on the wall or
for
on the
sure.
menu, like I'm here for it. Like it's a ton of work. It's
Yeah,
a ton of work, and I don't do it by myself. Like I have tons of
yeah,
people helping me, but yeah, I'm just like here for the whole process.
that's
And
sick.
it's pretty cool.
I love it, man. I feel like that always suits you well, like suits everybody well if they're well rounded, and I guess it's maybe like a natural progression when you very first start out in whatever aspect, whether it's designing or filmmaking. It's like the initial thing I see with tons of like brand new people is I want to do it, you know, everything completely by myself. I don't want to involve anyone else because it's all me and it's mine. And then once you start to work for a while and you get around other people, it's like, oh no, like you're really good at this and you're really good at that. And you start to curate, the ideas with a good team, and you staff your weaknesses, and it gets better. You can do bigger projects, and it's
Yeah,
sort of like,
it makes everything better. It's like
yeah,
I could have an idea for. It's good to be well rounded because you know enough to be able to tell people what you want.
yeah,
But you have to be open-minded about it, because there's people that are better at certain parts of
totally.
things than you are. So
Yeah.
and if you're open to it, then they're just going to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey,
For
I have
sure.
this idea that I'm going to, shoot holly powder into people's faces. And then I call somebody like you and I say, how can we do this? Like,
Uh-huh.
what should we do? And then you're going to bring me something to the table that I hadn't even thought of.
Yeah.
And it's just going to make the whole thing better in the end.
Yeah. It's a group game. It's fun.
Yeah, for sure. And then having a background in like being really talented at something, like whether it's design, art direction, filmmaking, it just makes you a more dangerous creative. You're like, I can do that, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it really, really well.
Yeah.
And like maybe I'm like directing, like which I've done by necessity at times. But like, okay, I'm gonna direct this, but I'm not gonna stop there. I'm gonna craft the hell out of it, because
Yeah.
that's my background. That's really my trade. So it's like I'll get it to like the direction to this point, but then all of the art direction will be like super duper tight, because that's really like I've got a ton of experience in that world.
Yeah.
And so I think that can just make you like, oh, you're kind of good at this, but you're really, really good at that. And like, you can be a bit of a Swiss Army knife, but then really like use your specific skills to dial in that
Totally.
aspect of the project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're well-rounded too, you kind of understand more of what it takes to bring your vision to life, because a lot of people that haven't done much of anything, they have a grandiose idea that might not fit their budget at all. And you kind of, sometimes you have to know like what's realistic here with what I want to do, and what's totally insane that'll never happen for this budget.
Totally. The more you can speak people's language, people appreciate it.
Totally.
They're like, hey, I don't think we can do it this way, but I had this thought of we could do it. Maybe this could make it feasible.
Yeah.
So, I think some people say that like, enough to be dangerous in a bad way, but like, I think it's super helpful for the most part. Like,
Totally.
enough to be able to speak and know what you want, and know who to talk to about it, and have a sense of what you can afford, what you can pull off, and how you're gonna do it. And I think what a lot of people don't realize when it comes to making campaigns and filmmaking is like all of the parts and pieces and people that go into these things. Like, there's so many like little details that you don't really think about, and you know, you don't really want the viewer to think about it. You want them to look at it and be like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you want them to like it. But you know, like, oh, well, it was because of those little details that we dialed in, because we got like the right camera, or we got the right art director, set director, or we spent the right amount of money on props. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's all those little things that can really make something either like really sing or kind of be mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and not only is it like the details are important, but like the amount of time and effort it takes to do those things. And like, you know, if you're managing every part of a project, you can easily be like, oh, I'm not going to really pay attention to the voiceover. I'm tired. Like, you know, or I'm not going to pay attention to the typeface that I use for the font, or I'm not going to really give feedback to the music person, because I'm just like, it's a ton of stuff.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
So, like, you just can't give up. Like, you have to see it through, like, every single little detail, because every detail is really part of the whole and what really makes something good or not.
Okay, random question for you. Favorite skate deck setup?
Oh man. Let's see, what have I been riding? So I think I finally graduated to an 8.
Nice.
So I was riding a 775 for a really long time. But as you get older, as you know, the flip tricks just hurt. They just hit you in the shin. So I finally moved up to an 8. You know, medium loose trucks, Formula 4s? Are they Formula 4s or Formula 44s? They're Spitfires, I think.
Yeah.
Great park wheels.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them to slide, or they're also pretty sticky.
Yeah.
For cruising around a park. You know, I think independent trucks, classic choice.
Nice, love it. Just had to ask. Like, I've been doing 825, mostly sticking at the park and rolling around like an old man.
Yeah.
Like skate park formula wheels. There's a company up here called Portland Wheel Co. that makes some pretty cool wheels.
Okay.
And yeah, same thing. Independent trucks, man. Still.
Independent. So a classic is a classic.
Classic, man. They just work. Well, sick, dude. What's next for you? What's new on the horizon?
What's new? So we actually, I thought about asking you to push this out because we have a pretty sweet project coming up, and I was like, well, we could talk about that, but by the time it comes out, it'll be a month and a half from now. But anyway, we have a pretty cool project. It is kind of up your alley too.
Cool.
In a way. I know I said I hit my quota for destruction.
There's never enough.
Not entirely true. I probably can't reveal everything, but we have a campaign coming out for a pet food company. Yep, they're called The Honest Kitchen.
Okay.
And we have a really cool campaign coming up for them. And to not give too much away, because I don't want to tell everybody what their campaign is, but the premise is based on misbehaving pets.
Very cool.
So we have a little bit of things that fall into the category of destroying a team
carnage
room.
Pet carnage.
Yeah, but it should be a really great campaign. It'll probably be launching here at the end of shooting in February, launching at the March. But
That's cool.
Yeah, really cool campaign, good brand. Like, it's kind of like higher end food. But they're really good people, really open to creative. It should be pretty interesting for the pet food category. It'll be different than most of the pet food stuff you see.
Mm-hmm.
So have that coming out. We have a couple of We have a couple of little things happening with the Long Drink, which is a canned cocktail.
Oh, cool.
They're pretty immersed in like the golf world, so we have a couple of things happening with pro golfer and like a little bit of a stunt happening around along the same timeline.
Nice, man. Is that all shot where you are? Or are you going to like Florida or New York and stuff?
Yeah, Arizona, because that's where golfers are.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't know if you've ever worked with golfers. Most of them live in like Jupiter, Florida, and like Scottsdale, Arizona.
I did a shoot with Ricky Fowler one time in Florida. That's the only reference I have for Florida golfing.
Nice. So, yeah, Ricky Fowler is actually involved in this brand.
Okay.
He's a investor, I think.
Okay. Nice.
But yeah, we it's not with Ricky, but we've done a couple things with Joel Damon, who's he's kind of like golf's everyman. He's like, he got famous for taking his shirt off on the golf course and swinging around his head, and then he appeared in Netflix's Full Swing.
Oh yeah,
documentary.
That's
cool
sick.
Dude, really cool guy. We've done a couple of things with him over the last couple of years. He's down. Like last year I got him to. We created a promotion where we gave away a golf trip, and the creative idea was you get to be a pro golfer for a weekend.
Okay.
And a pro golfer gets to become you. So it's like a trading spaces idea.
Yeah, like wife swap.
Yeah, so you got to go and like got like first class tickets to go play an amazing golf course for the weekend, and Joel got to go to your house and do your chores for you. No way.
That's sick.
So we did. He was super gracious and just down for everything, and we got him to like wear little pink woman's robe and
nice
clean up dog poop and vacuum and polish silverware and stuff.
It was that's sick.
Pretty funny.
I love it.
But he's a good guy. So we have something. We're doing something with him again this season, nice. And another thing as well. Sick,
dude.
Yeah, man.
I love it. Well, tell the people where they can find you. What's the best place that we should send everybody?
Yeah, check out goodconductcreative.com is our website. You can see some of the projects that we've been talking about, or find me on LinkedIn. I'm always down to talk creative and chop it up.